everyone, Adam here. So was your podcast. I have another interview for you today. I got to sit down with Kazy Tauginas and Rob Ciano to talk about their new movie, Shimmer. Rob is the writer, director, producer. Kazy stars in the movie. Kazy's actually been on the show before, so it was cool to have a repeat guest. Really cool guy, really cool actor. He's done some awesome projects. If you're into action movies, you've seen him around. He was in Dolomite Is My Name on Netflix last year, which is one of the best movies to come out in 2020. It was a really fun conversation. We kind of meander a little bit and go off the beaten path. We talk a lot about indie cinema, indie entertainment, and how that's probably the future of things. So, really fun interview. Hope you enjoy it. Hey everyone, Adam here. So was your podcast. I'm sitting down with Rob and Kazy to talk about their newest movie, Shimmer. How you guys doing?
Good.
Great.
Yeah, thanks for coming on.
Thanks for having us.
Kazy, you've been on before, actually, so this is a lot of fun.
Yeah. We're running it back.
Yeah, I think you're my first, maybe second repeat interview, so that's awesome.
Winning.
Yeah. And Rob, welcome.
Thank you.
So I don't want to go too far back down the rabbit hole, to have both of you guys tell your individual stories. But how did you both come together for Shimmer? Rob, if you want to start, because you were a producer director.
Absolutely, yeah. Well, I'm the producer director, and my co-producer Freya Saxon had worked with Kazy before, and she said, "You've got to work with this guy. Check out his website, check out his photos, his reel." And I did, and I was in immediate agreement. Yeah, we have to work with this guy, and that was the connection right there.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Adam, that's a flat out lie. I tracked him down. I saw the breakdown. I broke into his house. No, I did a Back to the Future. I put headphones on him in the middle of the night.
That's true. He planted the subliminal messages early on.
Yeah. My name is Darth Vader.
Mm-hmm.
Freya Saxon. She reached out to me. We had kind of like stayed in touch since acting school. We had done like a student film together many years ago, and I played a cop in that as well, and she played a scientist, and we just loosely stayed in touch, and then she reached out to me and said she was producing this horror film, and that she thought I'd be a good fit. So they sent over the sides. I laid it down, and it seemed like a fun piece, so it was kind of a no-brainer for me. But yeah, it's all we got. Give credit where credit's due. Freya, yeah. Our producer,
cool. Absolutely,
she produced the film from a distance. I felt like she was in the room, but she was just on, messaging us from Texas,
keeping everything going from across the country.
Yeah.
Was this a New York-based movie?
This was a New Jersey-based movie.
New Jersey, okay.
There were a few New York actors involved, or crew members, but a lot of the talent came from New Jersey. Yeah.
Very cool. And Rob, you as a director, is horror a genre that you typically work in or have worked in?
It is a genre. No, not so much. I mean, I've worked on various projects over the years, but I've never really taken on a horror project specifically. I've worked, on different short form things that are, I guess you could say a larger concept kind of a thing, but not specifically horror. It's not my go-to genre for entertainment, but I am very interested in things that kind of freak people out. So, it was a natural progression to get there eventually.
So was it this specific script that you kind of said, okay, horror's not my usual thing, but I want to jump on this one?
Well, it was the specific concept of the idea of being afraid of the light. The tagline of Shimmer is, "Are you afraid of the light?" And the whole concept of the movie stemmed from, okay, well, we know why somebody would be afraid of the dark, but what is scary about light? Why can that be a threat? And so we just kind of developed this, this villain, and we developed this storyline, and we developed this metaphor, and it all came out of that concept of what is scary about light.
That is a cool concept. So Kazy, kind of similar question for you, because you've done a lot of action movies, even some comedies. Is horror a genre that you like delving into?
Yeah, I mean, just my whole, I've always just envisioned my acting career as one that can span across different genres. So I had yet to do something that fell into that kind of horror, sci-fi thriller-esque. I mean, I've done sci-fi, but not to this, to this kind of, this got that like X-Files feel, right? So like, I wanted, I just the fact that kind of, I mean, realistically fell into my lap because of, Freya reaching out. So I just wanted to do different types of projects. And I do love a good horror film. I just think it's a genre that, has its own subgenres, right? So like you're all the way down into like comedy. So you're going from like, really scary. You got like your spiritual exorcist type films, and then you've got like your slasher, and then you've got, stuff that gets into like, the sci-fi, Event Horizon type movies, so, and then all that can get broken down into like comedic genres within, horror. So to me, any variation that fell under that umbrella was something I would be, that I was interested, because it would just add to the list of different types of films that I've been able to act in, and to be honest, different types of roles. That's probably the most important thing to me, is being able to just step into different shoes. That's what really appeals to me as an actor, at the core of, my approach.
That makes a lot of sense. As an actor, you want to try as many different things as you possibly can and find what you like, what you don't, and always be pushing yourself.
Yeah. And to me, it's even, it's not, because I don't really judge the characters that I play. So it's mostly, it comes down to just being willing to step into whatever shoes are there to step into, and living in that world. And to me, I think for myself, every time I do that, regardless of the genre, regardless of the type of character, I enjoy the ride, because it's a unique ride. It's a unique roller coaster that you're literally never going to take again, unless you get into like a series or something as like a series regular, or you end up in like a Marvel movie where you end up playing the same character 20 times. But even so, you're still telling that one individual story as that character. So there is still that unique aspect to performance and whatnot, because the situation changes, can be similar or whatever, but the situation and the antagonists and everything change. So I don't know where I was going with that.
No, it's
I
good.
just talked too much.
No, it's fine. And I like the line you had about how you don't judge the character, because you are becoming that person. So you can't really go in there with a judgmental attitude and thinking down on this person, unless the character thinks down on themselves. So I thought that was a really cool way to kind of get inside.
Yeah, you don't, it's not, your job is to embody that person, right? Like fictional person, character, or in some cases, someone real. But your job is just to make that person come to life, make that character come to life. So, you can have ideas of like, well, why would I do that? Or, like when you're in the shoes, but if, I think, like a good actor can usually rationalize any decision that their character is making, short of something that you would disagree with the writer or director on or something. You know what I mean? Like for the most part, you should be able to work through everything to help push the story. Because again, you as an actor, you're coming in to fill a slot. You're not coming with your own. You can come with like your own backstory and your own ideas, but you're still there to fill a slot, to help fulfill someone else's vision, and you want to do that to the best of your ability.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. It's pretty insightful. So you guys have this cool script, a very unique concept, because I can't think of another movie that's done that concept.
Thank you.
How do you go about starting, especially given the current climate of everything being more difficult?
Well, we actually, yeah. Well, we shot this actually back in 2019. We shot this in the fall of 2019, really before, I guess there were whispers of what was going on, at that point, maybe, but really it hadn't hit the United States. Nothing had, there were no concerns. We had no issues or, as far as shooting, there was no restriction. So the interesting, way that, the pandemic tied in was that we were in post-production. So there were certain ways that slowed us down, but we didn't have to worry about COVID protocols on set. We didn't have to worry about, really the difficulty was in just kind of doing those notes back and forth, because it's a little more difficult to, especially early on. That was the beginning of lockdown. Like people were a little more concerned about being in the same room as one another, and especially the nature of this film, like, our main editor was in Los Angeles, but I'm here in New Jersey, and we had another person doing, visual effects. That person was also on the other coast. So, it was a lot of emailing back and forth, and that definitely made it a little difficult. But we certainly didn't have to worry about shooting during that, which was good.
Yeah, that is good.
Yeah. It did stretch out our timelines quite a bit, the pandemic, because it stretched out everyone's timeline for everything everywhere.
Yeah, but nothing got released, and
Right.
Was there any issue where if maybe you needed pickups or reshoots or anything of that nature that just didn't become possible, or you kind of had everything you needed in the can before?
We pretty much had everything we needed in the can. We had some talks about maybe reshooting a few things, but those talks kind of went away. Even those talks went away before we had to worry about the pandemic. So,
oh, that's great.
We had very good timing as far as the shoot goes. Of course, who knew, right. But that's how it worked out for us.
So the shoot itself, how was it? Like, how many days, and was there any? There's always difficulties, but any unforeseen things that you were unique to this project?
Yeah, well, I think we shot for about maybe 18, 19 days, something like that, maybe 21 over the course of the shoot. But yeah, every shoot definitely has its difficulties. We were shooting on location, and this was it was a learning experience all around. Different people had different requests for us, and different things that we could and couldn't do, and we had to really get creative and work around certain certain requirements that we were given. We were an ultra low budget production, and that's part of the territory. This is indie film, and indie film is full of surprises and fun stuff. We actually had to completely change a location after shooting for a day there. For example, we had a shoot on location one day. We were supposed to be there for 2 or 3 days after that. And after we had been there for a day, we kind of realized that we probably would be able to do a few things better at a different location. We made a really tough call that we were going to push all those other scenes to the end of the shoot, try and find a place that worked a little better for what we needed. So that involved shuffling things around and all this kind of stuff. So I think that was probably the biggest hurdle that we had to overcome as far as like a scheduling thing. But then there were a lot of other really interesting things that we had to do. For example, we have in this film, this is film is called Shimmer. We have a lot of light effects in the film. And so we got to be really creative with our director of photography as far as matching practical effects in person with what the visual effects were going to be later on in the editing process. So there was a lot of bouncing light off of cards with reflective materials. We were playing with bouncing light through the water and different things. So those challenges came up, and they were a lot of fun too. It's always fun to have to reroute what you're doing. It can be annoying, but it's part of the challenge and part of the excitement about making indie film for me is saying, oh man, how we have this restriction, how can we be creative and move forward? So yeah, I mean, it went pretty smoothly. We had a really good production team. As Kazy was saying before, Freya in Texas felt like she was there with us on set. She and I spent maybe 6 months on the phone every day leading up to production, and then during production, she was there standing by, helping out on the phone, making things happen even from a distance. So things come up, but we actually had a pretty as smooth as I could have hoped for, I think, going through.
That's cool. Yeah, that's good. Guys, it looked like you were going to say something before.
I don't.
Okay,
I mean,
sorry.
every indie film is going to have its challenges, and it's funny that, like, you know, when you work on bigger stuff, just because there's like a smaller or a larger budget, you still have the same issues. You know, like Rob, for instance, had a location issue, which, you know, they had to make some decisions on. I had the same thing happen with when I was on Dolomite. You know, that was like a $40 million film or something, right? And they had a location issue. Everyone's there, everyone's set up, ready to go, and they got a call today. And these things happen all the time. It's just, you know, people somehow equate that, like, you're gonna have these kind of different problems from you know, the budgetary wise. It doesn't really change. It's you can have, there's issues, doesn't matter what your budget are, right? So I think it's just interesting from my perspective to be able to see from, like, you know, I've worked on these big films that I've seen issues, and then I work on these smaller films, and it's funny because it's kind of like universal. Like, if you're making a movie, there's going to be issues. It's just,
Right.
you know, it's just the world of entertainment just happens, you know. So it's just how you navigate, and as long as at the end of the day your final product doesn't reflect, you know, whatever went wrong or anything, which someone's got some
Yeah, sorry. I had the door shut.
Yeah. You got a cat?
Yeah, a few.
Nice.
Beautiful.
He knows whenever I'm recording, so.
Of course, right?
Yeah.
Right. I'm surprised he didn't jump up and like smack the screen. Like,
Oh, he will.
Yeah.
He had to say his piece, you know. He had to say his piece.
Yeah. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off there.
No, that was great. I got a cat too. We saved a stray during the pandemic, so.
Oh, great.
I feel you, you know.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's just, you know, it's like you can't make an omelet without breaking eggs, and that's just really filmmaking as a whole. So, you know, from my perspective, you know, I think at the core, it's how everyone really conducts themselves. You know, professionalism is professional, whether you're working on a small budgeted film or whether you're working on a big budgeted film. You know, it's all about professionalism and, you know, taking your craft seriously, regardless of whatever part everybody's playing, because making a movie is, you know, when they say it takes a village, that's very accurate. You know, everyone, especially on a smaller budgeted film, the person bringing the coffee sometimes might be the most important person for the day. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
To be honest. So
Yeah.
Yep.
It's one of those things where you gotta kind of come together as a family, and everyone's really got to be on the same page, especially for smaller stuff, just because you don't have the extra hands on deck. But you know, I had a fun experience. I enjoyed myself on this, you know. And Rob is very collaborative in his directing style, so that falls in line with kind of how, you know, my approach to acting is, you know.
Yeah, that's cool. And I imagine the collaboration thing on the smaller sets probably is maybe even more important than on a larger thing where it's all these kind of cogs in the wheel.
Yeah, you know, so every director is different, right? And also there's a big difference between film and television. So like film has more flexibility as far as, you know, especially like takes on characters. When TV is really legitimately about filling a slot, you don't have much room at all when it comes to dialogue. I don't think I've worked on one show where they're like flexible on that at all, you know. Whereas like I've done, you know, bigger films. Equalizer 2, none of the lines I had in the movie were scripted. That was all just Antoine Fuqua wanting to see what you come up with. And I like cool. That, you know, I love that. And Rob kind of had a similar approach. We would kind of talk through our scene, and I'd be like, all right, I'm gonna try something, you know. If it doesn't work, you know, we'll do it. And Rob was very open to that. And I think we were able to find a nice middle ground for the, you know, for the Kurt Bloss character, as far as, you know, fulfilling Rob's vision, but also being able to bring my thoughts and ideas to the table as to what this character would do. And I think we were able to bring him to life. I mean, at least that's what I've heard.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Having worked in both there is no deviation and the director letting you explore your character a little bit more and kind of putting your own spin on it, does it help you get into your character more when you have even that little bit of license to, oh, I think he would react this way, or this was the background that I created for him in my head? Can that come into play here?
You know, I 100% believe for me that is the best way to work. Sometimes people will write just, you know, there's like you'll read dialogue in an audition, right? And you'd be like, I would literally never say this, like ever, never. And for me, like if I do get an audition that comes in and I don't like the way like a specific line is written, I usually will just rephrase, you know, especially now that everything has become self-tape. And even for me, even Rob, I even self-taped for your film.
Yes,
there was no in-house, you know, it was just a self-tape. So like, you know, I feel like I will bring what I bring to the character from the moment that I audition. And it's not my job to get them to like me. It's just my job to do the best that I can and put my spin on whatever the character is going to be. And if they like that and they think it works for the story that they're trying to tell, they'll hire me. And if not, I don't take it personally. I'm at the stage where I pretty much do what I think fits in the realm. I'll look up if it's something bigger, I'll look at what the director has done in the past. I'll take a look at their style. I'll be like, okay, all right, I see where they're headed with this or whatever. And this is probably going to be tonally similar. And I might kind of match that, but it's always I kind of play it like how I would want to see it come to life. And that's also because I am a filmmaker on my side of things too. You know, I produced and written and directed. And so I kind of come at it from a little bit of a different perspective. And also, to be honest, for actors, like you're like, oh, I put my heart and soul into every audition that I do and I don't get anything. Like that's just like kind of a depressing way to live.
Yeah.
I make all my auditions fun. Like everyone that I do that I lay down, I have fun with. Because at the end of the day, we're not curing cancer. We're making movies. We're having fun. And if anybody's making movies with that, like I'm a brain surgeon kind of a mentality, needs to just like take their foot off the gas, because we're like making a movie and we're trying to, you know, entertain people. So kind of my idea is like, if I'm kind of entertained as the character, I'll be fun to watch, you know, because then whether I'm playing a protagonist or antagonist or just support or whatever it is, if I'm kind of having fun doing it, then probably the people watching will have fun doing it and just, you know, committing to whatever choice that you've made as far as a character goes. And Blas in Shimmer is a complicated dude. Like he was like, there's like, you know, there's a layer cake to this man, you know. And I tried to, and this was, Rob and I had a discussion very early on. I think it was like the first discussion that we had where I kind of told him my approach, and, you know, Rob was like, all right, cool. Let's do it. So, I was able to play and, you know, we even worked out the physical stuff in the film, you know, together. And, I think in the end, it served the character and the story well. Because the more you can inject of yourself into a character, I think whether that's like a good version of yourself or like a bad version of yourself, the more of you that you can pour into it, the more real it's going to feel, you know. Like you can tell the difference when you're an audience member and you're watching on screen, when somebody's just straight up like acting, or when someone is just existing, right? Like there's a difference. Like if you're existing and you're just being, there's levels, you know what I mean? So, I try to find, that's why when I say don't judge, right? Don't judge the character. Just, you know, try to think what would make this kind of a person tick and make that work. Because if you're judging and, then it feels like you're doing a performance. And I feel like, as from an acting perspective, if I'm on set and I feel like I'm performing for everybody, we're not hitting the right notes. Because like in life, unless you're actually playing a performer that's performing, like it's going to come across very like, stagey and unnatural, like emphasizing sentences like, hey man, and like nobody would say, you'd be like, yo, hey man, what I mean? Like, it's just like that kind of stuff that you'll notice in some, even mainstream performance, you'll see that. You'll be watching a movie and be like, wait, that was really weird, but you can't put your finger on it because
it takes you right out of it.
Yeah, it takes you out of it. So like, your job as an actor is just, make it come to life, make it as natural as possible, unless for some reason, you're watching like Telemundo where they got to be like, or something, but even then make that version of that come to life, right? I'm talking too much. Ask Rob a question.
No, I again, I like everything you had to say, and I love your approach to the audition process, because as an outsider, it seems like just like a nightmare part of the job. But if you're like, I'm going to do my thing, and if they like it, then I'm going to have that much more fun. If they don't like it, there's the next one.
Yeah. I mean, I have a lot of acting brethren that put a lot into each audition, and I understand you want to put a lot into it, but like the game, especially now, has changed. It's self-tape. You know what I mean? The pressure isn't there of you walking into the room. You don't have to be sweating about the pits before you go in and like, you literally just lay down the tape, do a couple of different versions of the character, and then just let it go. Because you're literally in the comfort of your own home, your own lighting, your own camera. If you're having trouble with the lines, guess what? You could just like tape the sides to the wall behind the camera and just pick them up, put it as your eye line. Like it just takes a lot of the pressure off of you. So if any actors are watching this, like don't sweat it. It's just an audition. So, if you don't get it, there will be more, unless you completely have a meltdown, like an epic cinematic meltdown, and you still send that tape. But if you're having a meltdown in your own house, you just cut and you're good.
Delete that file.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, don't have to worry. No worries.
You don't have to worry about it.
Yeah, it's cool. Rob, you had mentioned that there was a lot of lighting effects and everything, and as makes sense there were if your tagline is, being scared of the light. Was that like a particular challenge? Because lighting is one of the biggest things for like a cinematographer. So did that make your setups and everything that much more challenging, or did it save you a lot of time in post and not have to do everything digitally?
Well, it enabled us to have a lot of, creative solutions on set. So my DP, John Mercer, who is excellent director of photography, he and I started speaking early on. He saw, earlier versions of the script, and so we went into this knowing that we were making a movie about light, and that light was going to be important. We talked a lot about how we were going to, frame these shots, what we were going to do with light. We wanted to make sure that we wanted to have light be sort of this imposing presence, but we didn't want to go, quite so far as like, light beams in Star Trek. It can be a little much. So we wanted to find that happy medium, and we wanted to find what it was going to do for the film itself and how it was going to talk about these different themes and how it was going to, really emphasize what we wanted to emphasize as far as the storytelling. So we did have a lot of opportunity to really think about these different elements and how we wanted to bring them into the movie. When we were actually on set, that was when, we got to learn how many of these plans that we had were actually going to work. John definitely did some preliminary, tests, and he did some preliminary footage, but you get to set and everything's different because you have a whole team of people there. You're in an area that you aren't, used to working in, or you are doing the shot a little differently than you expected to. So there were definitely, you have to be a little bit flexible in that case. And sort of going back a little bit to what what Kazy was talking about a few minutes ago, that's why I, want to be collaborative as a director. I'm coming to, my job as director is to tell the story properly. In order to do that, I'm bringing a bunch of people onto a team, and all of these people are also artists themselves. You know, everybody here, I'm not bringing Kazy on to play Kurt Bloss because he doesn't know how to act, and I'm not bringing him on because he doesn't know how to bring something to a character. If he comes to me and says, I don't think this line is going to read correctly, I'm going to trust him, because though I have, you know, I wrote this script in this case, not every director writes, in this case, I wrote this script, but that doesn't mean that I necessarily know Kurt Bloss better than the actor who is spending time with this character, learning these lines, finding this motivation. You know, I have my own vision of who this character is, but Kazy is the one who needs to be believable in that role. So my job as director is to say, okay, you know, team member, we have to tell this story. This is the story that we're telling at the end of the day. This is my approach. This is your approach. You know, and then it's just weighing, like, what's going to get us closer. You know, what's more believable. If an actor comes to me and says, I don't think that my character would say this line, I'm very apt to believe that actor, because, you know, they're living it, unless it's a super important line, or it, you know, it says something else that's important in another capacity. That's another part of, you know, the directing job, is just making sure that the pieces that you're putting together will fit later on. So, you know, in terms of working with the director of photography and these light effects, it goes back to the same thing. He's also an artist. He has his approach. I have my ideas, and we have to meet in the middle, you know, and find what works best to tell the story. So that was when we got to have a lot of fun, you know, on set. Our gaffer, you know, they were calling themselves the Shimmerettes, and they were, you know, having the light board and bouncing it around, and you know, I'm just glad that we had a really good team. We had a team of people who were excited to tell this story and find those creative solutions, and just be a part of what was going on. So I may have lost your original question in there somewhere,
no,
but
right,
I think I did answer it, actually.
Yeah. No, it's all good. It's all good.
Good.
Any direction you guys want to go is fine.
Great.
Okay, so you managed to film pre-lockdown, meaning without knowing, but that's great.
Right.
So you had a little bit more time for post, which could have been a blessing in disguise, because you got to stretch it out, because who knew anything about releases. When was your release, and what was the release?
The release was a few weeks ago. The release was on September 7th. It slowly trickled out. So first it was available on Vudu on September 7th, and it was available in some Walmart stores in the United States. So right now it's North American distribution. And so it slowly trickled out to other Walmarts over the next like 2 weeks or so. I think it's probably at every Walmart now, but also it's available on Amazon. It's on Dish, and it's on various in-demand channels. But yeah, September 7th was our official release, quote unquote, and then there was the slow trickle after that.
Very cool. And have you had the opportunity, either of you guys or both, to see it with a live audience?
A few weeks ago, 2 weeks ago, we had a screening. Unfortunately, Kazy couldn't make that one at the last minute, but we did get to screen the film for a live audience of about 60 people, and it was mostly cast and crew and people who are related to the cast and crew, and it was great. We had a really good time. I felt people really responded to the film. We had a lot of really good feedback, and I'll tell you, watching it on the big screen was really something special. It was really a really cool thing to see the film up there and feel the energy in the room as the tension builds and the different things happen, and it was great. It was really nice.
Awesome. Well, guys, sorry.
We would be remiss not to mention the lead of the film, Nicole Galicia, who, she's the one who really, as the lead, carried the film on her shoulders. So I just want to shout her out, because she did bring her A game, and she's from an acting perspective, I had a lot to work with, because she's a giving actor. You get a lot from her, and I felt like I think there was that one, we have a scene in a car together, which was like one of the ones where we sat down with Rob and kind of were like, what is going to happen in this? And I think that watching the film, that's definitely one of my favorites in the film, because I felt like we really came up with like the right like cocktail of emotion in that scene, and we're able to really kind of like bring it to life. And that was one of them where we figured out on the day exactly what information needed to be provided, and a lot of that dialogue was improv, I think, right? We didn't really.
Yeah, I'm fairly certain that entire scene as we shot it was improv.
Yeah.
And I remember, it was.
And I think watching that one on screen, because you never know how that's going to end up going, right? But it cut together very nicely, and I think it was great, just from like an acting perspective.
Yeah.
And then of course, my favorite scene is the bar scene in the whole film.
Of course. Well, the bar scene, yeah. Just to piggyback on top of that is just to say what a talent Nicole Galicia is, and as Kazy said, she really carries the film on her shoulders, and what a performance. I am just so grateful to have worked with her and with Kazy, and of course all of the talented people involved in the film, Jacques Mitchell and Brian Anthony Wilson and all these people, but Susan Moses, and just everybody was so talented in this film. But yeah, absolutely. I just wanted to reinforce that same comment that Nicole is, she is the character. She is the character. Yeah. As much as anyone is a character, as much as anybody is anybody, she is Thea Kate. Dr. Thea Kate. Yeah.
And leading a film, indie or mainstream or not, is a task, and she had she's in almost every single scene, right? She's pretty much in
nearly every scene.
Yeah, like 97% of the scenes she's in. So
the film really follows her. Yeah.
Yeah. It's that's a challenge. And I think that she not only was, from a performance wise, she was up to the challenge, but just like, her conduct on set and how like she carried herself and her willingness to work, and just like, leads of films sometimes leads of films think they're leads of films, you know what I mean? But we weren't dealing with that. And it just made it a really pleasant experience for me to work with her and be on set with her. Cause I always felt like we were going to come up with something great. Cause again, it was about making the character come to life instead of like some form of like self-glorification, which a lot of actors like to do, but
yeah, that's good to hear.
I just wanted to shout her out.
Absolutely. And it's always great to hear that it's a good experience across the board, and that you were able to collaborate rather than like battle egos, but you made it through the scene. Like it's much nicer, because even as an audience member, that might not necessarily come across. It just, for me at least, now when I watch it, it's like, oh, this was a good project that everyone was happy with.
Yeah. I think so.
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, guys, thank you very much for taking the time to come on. I really appreciate it, and people should check out Shimmer. It's available now.
Thank you for having us. It's great to be here. Yeah, it's excellent.
I'd like to thank Kazy and Rob one more time for coming on the show to talk to me about their newest movie, Shimmer. Shimmer is available now on all the major platforms. I know it's really cheap to rent on Amazon Prime right now, so you might want to jump on that before they raise the price. It's also on Vudu, and there is physical media out there. I know Walmart was a big carrier, and it should be national now because Walmart owns Vudu, and I believe it's spreading to more places, so you can definitely find it. It's a really cool, unique concept, as they talked about in the interview, so I don't need to rehash that here. Check it out. Make sure you like and subscribe to the channel. A lot more new movie coverage, a lot more interviews, everything coming your way. Also, make sure you listen to So Is Her Podcast every single week, wherever you get your podcasts. SoIsHerPodcast.com is your resource for reviews, recommendations, merchandise, videos, and more. We love hearing feedback, so drop us a note in the comments, leave us something on social media. All the accounts will be found after the show and in the show notes. So Is Her Podcast can also be found on Patreon, where for as little as $1 a month you get multiple monthly bonus shows. And on a more personal note, a really good friend and I have an ongoing comedy comic series out right now. It's called Social Studies. It's a slice-of-life comedy comic. It's all about the high school experience, how dramatic and crazy and huge things were while you're just trying to figure out who you are and who your friends are. It's got a lot of cool themes on, self-discovery and friendship, but it's all done for comedy. It's all done for laughs. get a universal high school experience, even though it is loosely based on our personal lives. You can find all that and more at socialstudiescomic.com. Thanks.